We're now going to look at setting up the AutoCAT and giving it its initial configuration. This is a one-time operation, and unless you're adding peripherals. If you add peripherals, you may have to come back and reset this configuration. You want to start first of all by turning on the instrument, and then the AutoCAT will go through some initiation steps and do an auto test, and it'll come up in the main menu. You can see on the screen here that there are 4 different menus. You have here the method menu where you run the program from. If you scroll to the right, you come into the titrants menu where you have access to titrants and burette functions. One more over, you come to the electrodes menu, and the last menu over here is the cell menu. For initial configuration, you want to scroll back over to the methods menu, the one all the way far to the left, and press and hold the stop key for about 3 seconds, and you come up into the setup menu. If you were in a routine mode, you would have been prompted for a password. If you were not in the routine mode and you were in the supervisor mode, which we were, you are not prompted for a password, but we can now go in and set up a password for having the AutoCAT only be run in the routine mode. So with the highlighted supervisor code, press the check mark, and you're prompted to enter a supervisor code. In this particular case, we'll choose something simple. Just hit up 1, 2, 3. That'll be our supervisor code. We then hit the check mark to validate, and we now have a supervisor code. Now, whenever you want to go into supervisor mode on the AutoCAT, you'll have to come into the setup and enter your password, and then exit in the supervisor mode. What we'll do next here is to set up the configuration. We scroll down using the bottom arrow key. Alternately, you could press the number 1 and get into the configuration. Press the check key, and you see we're listed with a series of menus from which to choose from. At the top we have a user ID. This is to require or prompt the operator for entering his name or initials to know who does the analysis. It's done at the beginning of every analysis, or it is also done at any calibrations. You can turn this on, or you can turn it off. Yes or no. We're going to turn it off in this particular case. We're not going to require that the user enter his ID. You can scroll down next to the time, and we can enter the time or change it to whatever it is. It is in 24-hour mode. That is about the time that we have now, but just to show that we can change it, keep the 16 and say it's 16:20. And if that's the correct time, then you hit valid. You next have the date line, which shows you today's date. Today's date is the 23rd. If you wanted to change it, you'd press the check key and change the numbers. Valid. We'll keep that. Languages, we have a choice of several languages: English, Spanish, and French. We'll stay in English. There is a keyboard option, connector on the side of the AutoCAT so that you can use the keyboard if you'd like. And if you do use a keyboard, you can select what kind of keyboard to use. We'll stick with the English US keyboard. The next prompt is for the alternating current power frequency. In the US, 60 Hertz. In Europe and some other countries, you may need to change it to 50 Hertz. We'll keep with 60 Hertz. The next prompt is whether you have a printer connected or not. If you want to have a printer connected, you press the check key. There is no option between yes and no. It's a printer with either no printer or else that printer has 80 columns. It is a serial printer. It's got to be a serial printer, which is why it prompts you for the 80 columns. So we're going to put that in, that we do have a printer, and the only option there is it has 80 columns. And finally, the last prompt is whether you want the AutoCAT to beep at the end of the analysis or at the end of a calibration to let you know that the analysis is done and to come over and complete the analysis. and we'll keep the beep at yes. Once we've set all those options to our own configuration, we hit the escape key and we come back to the setup menu. The next option here we have is access to routine mode, and what this does is allows you to select what kinds of options the person who is running in routine mode has. And in this particular case, it's the titrant calibration. If the titrant has expired, we can either not allow the routine operator to continue on with the analysis, or we can allow the operator to continue on with the analysis. In the locked mode, the operator would not be able to continue on with the analysis until there was until the titrant was calibrated. Same thing goes with an alarm. That can be either locked or unlocked if something is not right with the titrant. So we're going to leave it at locked for the routine mode. Hit escape, takes you out of the access routine mode, and now we can go down to customize. Number 3, hit the check mark, and in this particular case, what this allows you to do is to change some of the labels that come out on your printouts, some of your reports, so that it matches your particular company. You can give it, change the station. We could call it AutoCAT 9000. Scroll over, hit the space mark, which is right here on the period. Press and hold it. Period goes away, you go to the space mark, and we could say AutoCAT station, and we'll call it number 1. And number 1, and press and hold. When you hold the key, it starts to scroll through the different characters. Hit valid when you have the way you like it, and you can then go down and change these different labels for your company. So in this particular case, let's change this to Hawk Company. You scroll all the way over to the left and hit the delete key, and we'll just change it to XYZ Company. So if you hold down the 3, it scrolls through. If you scroll past the capitals, you'll see it goes into lowercase, but we'll keep it with the capitals, X, and then we'll go Y. Oops, I made a mistake, so what you do is you hit the back arrow key and then hit the delete, and then try it again. Y and Z Company. When you have it the way you like it, press the check mark, and you can then change the address and the phone number to fit your company. When you're done, hit the escape key, and you're back to the setup menu. The next option is the reset to factory settings. You really do not want to press this unless you have serious problems with your analysis and you want to reset the whole AutoCAT. You will lose all of your programming if you do this, so make sure that you have written down all of your parameters in your programming before you do a factory reset of the settings. You'll have to go back and enter them in again. And finally, the bottom key is the exit key. And if you press this, since we are in supervisor mode, we're going to go directly back. Sorry, we're not going to go directly back. We'll go back and be given the option. Since we had entered a supervisor code, we'll be given the option to go back in routine mode or supervisor mode. Routine mode, you have limited access to the editing power in the instrument. The routine mode is strictly for running analysis and not for programming. Since we're going to be doing programming, we're going to change this, hit the change key or the check, and we're going to go back into supervisor mode. So we select supervisor, hit valid, and then we can either press 1 to confirm, or we can scroll down to it and then hit the check mark. And we're back into supervisor mode, and we're now finished with the configuration, initial configuration of the AutoCAT.